Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Melanie Curtis.
Thank you. Oh, I'm so happy to be with you all. Thank you for being here. I can't see you, but I know you're there. I feel you. This is how we roll here. Okay. Most people know me as the world record pro skydiver, keynote speaker. That's me right there, jumping out of airplanes. That's the world record. That's me going upside down 200 miles per hour. Cool. This is me doing a lot of work also for women. This is a world record that's comprised of all women. And it's something that I care about to champion in the world, along with my advocacy, certainly for psychedelic healing. That's a whole different story, the podcast, et cetera, et cetera. So, sounds like I have it all together. Yeah? Right? I'm totally with it, you guys. Of course, that's not true. Of course, there's so much more to the story. So one thing that I have struggled with in my entire life, it's this really challenging experience with anxious attachment in my intimate relationships, where I would feel, man, I am so successful in so many other areas. I'm a businesswoman, I got a podcast, I'm a Polish author, like the list goes on. But why can't I figure this other thing out? You know, so when I was working on that, I would just feel alone. I would feel stupid. Like, why can't I, just confused, not able to understand why this was such an issue for me. So that, of course, after painful breakup, I was finally brought to plant medicine. My best friend, she owns a healing and retreat center in Florida, and I had the great gift of basically getting to watch her start to work with plant medicines over the years. So she was sitting with ayahuasca, she was working with mushrooms in this ceremonial healing context that you mentioned, Joey, and really meeting these medicines for the sake and purpose of healing. So with me, full of Nancy Reagan, just say no to drugs mindset, it took years, I'm not joking you guys, years for me to even consider doing anything with other substances, molecules that I can now say have profoundly changed my life. And if we're talking about biohacking and human optimization and untapped potential, there's no way I can actually fully talk about that without talking about the impact of psychedelic medicines. So I want to talk about a couple of my personal stories to just give you a window into what I've experienced. So for those of you who are new to the psychedelic space or haven't learned much about what it is to sit with these medicines, you are encouraged to bring an intention. So you're going to you don't have to, but you're encouraged to. So for me, I'm finally starting to sit with mushrooms, and I bring this intention to humbly ask the medicine, what can I heal around anxious attachment? What do I need to see? What do I need to heal such that this part of my life experience might be transformed? The medicine often gives you, they say the medicine only gives you what you can handle and always gives you what you need and only what you can handle. And I've found that to be true across the board over the, last 8 years, which funny that my sobriety just preceded my beginning to work with psychedelic medicines in this healing context. So I bring this intention to work on anxious attachment. And I'm in one of my early ceremonies with ayahuasca. And I'm trying to purge. There's something that's wanting to come out, but it's not coming out. I know you might have heard this, those of you who don't know a lot about this, that what happens in an ayahuasca ceremony often is you will purge in some form, whether it's puking, whether it's crying, whether it's sweating, whether it's going to the bathroom. It comes out in lots of different ways to cleanse and heal your system. So I have this experience where I'm trying to puke and I can't. Shannon, my best friend who I mentioned, she's amazing. She was holding the space in this particular ceremony. She walks over to me, seeing my struggle, and offers me hape, which is a snuff that amplifies the effects of the medicine. And she asks me to ask my heart, to make sure that I want to have this additional aid, this additional medicine that might help me. They also say, I don't know, I'd love to hear from the experienced folks in the room later maybe. They say that when you meet ayahuasca, you know. This ceremony that I'm talking about was the 5th time that I had sat with ayahuasca, and up to that point, I had gotten things. I'd gotten guidance, I had purged, I had felt healed and supported, but I had never really felt like I met her. So this night, Shannon comes over with the hape. I'm struggling, kneeling by my bucket. I ask my heart, and it's a yes. I take the hape. It's up your nostril, so I take one, super intense, like, can I do the second? Yes, it's a yes. I take the second, and I immediately puke, like violently puke into my bucket, and I hear being silent. That was every single time I didn't speak up for myself, every single time I did something I didn't want to do, every single time my dad told an off-color joke and I said nothing. She helped me both get rid of that poison, that trapped self-expression, and she helped me begin to access my voice with men, right? Because my intention for the ceremony was how can I grow? How can I heal relative to my experience in love relationship? Another ceremony years later was a 3-day ceremony. That's often how I engage ayahuasca, is they'll say, oh, I'm doing an ayahuasca ceremony, but really it's a 3-day experience where you have a ceremony 3 nights in a row. So this particular 3-day, it was both the easiest ceremony of my life to date and the most difficult. So the first day, it was just really easy. I had never experienced that before. It was I had a moment where I was like, oh, I'm gonna puke. I got up near my bucket and it was gone. And the rest of the ceremony was sort of just like, just relaxed. I felt a sense of care, a sense of holding. I didn't get much from it in terms of guidance, but that's okay. Sometimes that's how it happens. I think now it was the medicine preparing me for what were to be and still are to this day, the 2 hardest ceremonies I've ever experienced. So the next 2 days were, next 2 ceremonies, it was just relentless terror, fear. Like no matter what I did, no matter what how I tried to maybe ask a question or you try to sort of talk with the medicine as best you can, even when you are really deeply connected, so as to work with it optimally to get the most from your time with the medicine. That's not an easy thing to do. I'm still not very good at it, to be truthful, but it's something that I'm like working toward as I engage these medicines in these healing contexts. So 2 full days, and mind you, the intentions that I brought to this ceremony, and I want to make a point to touch on this, is that also this 3-day ceremony, years later, I still brought the same intention with humility, even though for multiple years I'd been bringing the same intention about what can I heal around this lifelong pain with anxious attachment in my intimate relationships. And so I brought it again. Even though I was doing well, I was happy in my relationship. I was just, what else is there for me to know? What else do I need to heal? And then sometimes the medicine will give you answers to your stuff, right? Hashtag being silent, cool. You know, and other times she won't, they won't. So I tend to bring a multitude of intentions. So for this, I also was like, if you have any guidance on my next chapter of work, I would be open to that guidance. Just, you know, something to be able to go to. So I went to all these things, went to all these questions in this really, really scary 2 days of ceremony. And I just really wasn't getting much. The only nugget of anything that she gave me was the word worthless. Oof, like, and why I point to this is not because that ceremony cleared me of the work to do on creating and knowing and cultivating my worthiness, but it gives you threads to pull on. Because we talk about, of course, integrating after our ceremonies. That's a big, big deal. We'll talk about that in a second. But what I want to tell you about this ceremony is not necessarily that I got this word and this thread to pull on, but at the end of this 3-day ceremony, how I've experienced these 3 days, when it starts, you are in silence, meaning you are not allowed to talk, you are not allowed to engage other people, you are not allowed to touch other people. It is your individual experience for your healing. So this is the 3rd day. The ceremony has been closed. So everyone else, literally no one else is in the ceremony circle. I am just, except Shannon. Shannon's still there holding the space for me because I was still quite connected. And it was, like I said, the ceremony was closed. And basically, I got up out of my nest. I walked to the bathroom, I used the bathroom, and then I walked back over to my nest, but I didn't want to sit down. I didn't want to get back into it. I just wanted to sort of stand grounded on the earth. And Shannon walks over, and she asks me if I'm okay, and she asks if she can give me a hug. And I say yes, and I collapse into her arms, and I start weeping, just wailing, just agony, just wailing for like 15 minutes straight. Meanwhile, the 2 previous nights, I had no purge, no crying, nothing. It was this was my purge. Now, how this connects to my intention is that this, for me, was a powerful experience of consent, and how that is such a powerful piece of the conversation that women have to navigate. And so for me to really get that, like, yeah, okay, cool, we talk about integration, where does this go? And of course, when I got being silent, that changed my behavior. How could I be brave with the relationships that I was having? How could I speak up for my needs? How could I do that, right? That's part of my integration. Relative to my work, I work with women. Cognitively, I got it. I was on like freaking CBS Evening News talking about championing women and girls to be bold and brave. I believe in it. But I didn't really get it until that ceremony, until I was like, oh. I started to feel in my body, in myself, in my story, just how much it matters to actually stand for women and girls. So that's a big deal. Another thing that I did, I just want to show this for fun, is it sort of also manifests, and I did this large-scale sort of art project where I'm this fantastical woman that's humongous and taking up massive unapologetic space in the world, wearing a shirt that says, I am here. Like, you know what I'm saying. I want to swear right now, but I'm trying not to swear. But this is a version of how I have my voice, right? So it is in the intimacy of my relationships and how I show up, how I show up for my friends, how I share about my needs in my intimate relationships, like I said, and how I show up in the world and the gravity with which I care to speak and the opportunities I want to step into, which this is one, David. I'm so thankful, and I know that he encouraged us to do QR codes and share our stuff, which I love. So please, I would love to connect with all of you, and I'm so grateful. Thank you for listening, and please reach out if you do want to connect, and thank you so much.